You've probably heard the phrase, never take candy from strangers. But on Halloween, that's exactly what we're encouraged to do. But what happens when those innocent strangers are actually real-life boogeymen, hiding needles, razor blades, or even poison in your unsuspecting candy? And today, we'll tiptoe around the story of someone who did just that. So when you're out trick-or-treating this year, watch out for the Candyman. Welcome to the Halloween special of The Last Supper. Hello and welcome to episode 7, the Halloween special of the Last Supper podcast. My name is COLSON DAVIS and I'm an amateur chef, true crime junkie, a music and video producer, and a content creator. Every episode of this podcast, I'll be telling you a true death penalty case story, and at the same time, I'll be cooking that criminal's last requested meal before they were executed. This week, we are talking about the Candyman, or the man who killed Halloween. Now, I'm not going to give away the name yet, just so you get a little surprise of who it is. But his last meal consisted of a T-bone steak, medium to well done, fries with ketchup, whole kernel corn, sweet peas, lettuce and tomato salad with egg and French dressing, iced tea, sweetener, saltine crackers, Boston cream pie, and rolls. Now, a couple quick things before we jump in. The new Halloween logo merch is now available on the website, link in description. Next, go join my new Patreon. On there, I have an exclusive bonus episode for my paid members all about different candy poisonings and different candy accidents around Halloween. It's a great, cool little thing, with a bunch of cool cases in there. Go join. Get the bonus episode. Third, go join the email list. It really helps out the show. Get a bunch of cool stuff, all for free. And next, if you'd like to donate, please do so. Link in the description. It really helps out the show, guys. Any support you give me is so much appreciated. Thank you. Now, let's dive into the case of the Candyman. On the spooky night of Halloween 1974 in Deer Park, Texas, Ronald Clark O'Brien had just finished up dinner with some friends. Still dressed up in his optician's lab coat and work attire, Ronald stood at home debating to take his children out in the rain. But Ronald was extra excited for Halloween this year, and he decided to take his 2 children out to trick-or-treat, knock on neighbors' doors, and get some innocent goodies. Ronald had a son, an 8-year-old named Timothy O'Brien, and a 5-year-old named Elizabeth. Ronald and his kids were accompanied by his neighbor and friend Jim Bates along with his young son. Jim Bates also had a daughter at home as well, but I think she was sick or didn't want to go out in the rain. The group traveled a short distance to a larger community in their town so they could maybe snag some of those full-size candy bars. They had visited a few homes when the group approached an ominous house. Every single one of the lights had been switched off. It appeared as if no one was home, but the children of course banged on the door hoping for a reply along with some delicious candy. Sadly, no reply came, and the group of children trudged onward in search of more houses. After following with the children, Ronald decided he was going to go back to the house one more time to see if he could get a response. The kids were some distance away when Ronald knocked on the door again. He then saw the door creak open, and a long, hairy arm reached out from the dark crack holding pixie sticks. The stranger never showed his face, and Ronald rushed off and hurriedly caught up to the rest of the children and showed them the 21-inch pixie sticks. Ronald had told the group about the hand coming from the dark, ominous home, and they carried on. After filling their bags with candy, the O'Briens, Jim Bates, and his son went back to the Bates household. Ronald gave the 2 Bates children each a pixie stick and gave his own children each one as well. Ronald had one last pixie stick, and a boy knocked on the Bates door. "Trick or treat!" Ronald recognized the boy from church, and he graciously handed over his final pixie stick. Happy Halloween. Later that night in Deer Park, a town of excitement and joy would turn into a fear-stricken nightmare. After the family got home and settled in for the night, Ronald had told Timothy and Elizabeth that they could only eat one piece of candy since it was close to bedtime, and then the next day they could go all out. Timothy supposedly decided to eat the pixie stick, but Timothy couldn't open the candy and needed help from his father. Ronald said later, quote, "I took the pixie stick in my hand and rolled it in my hand, broke up the clumps, and helped pour it down my son's throat." After eating a mouthful, Timothy had complained that it had tasted bad. Ronald then gave him Kool-Aid to wash the candy down. The child almost immediately went to the bathroom and started to convulse and vomit profusely, the vomiting seeming to never end. The police were called, and at one point, Timothy's body went limp, and Ronald had to hold his son up. A 4-month rookie patrolman was the first on the scene. He stated, quote, "The feeling of helplessness was overwhelming, seeing this young boy, with dry heaves." Timothy was taken into an ambulance and taken to the hospital, but sadly, 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien was pronounced dead less than 1 hour after consuming the candy. After being pronounced dead, prosecuting attorney Mike Hinton was called by the Pasadena Police Department. Quote, "They told me an 8-year-old boy had died. He was rushed to the hospital, but he had already passed. After hearing the news of a child passing, he immediately went to start his investigation." Hinton called the chief medical examiner of nearby Harris County, Dr. Joseph A. Jackum, what the fuck is this again? Jack and Chick. That's right. Jackamchick. Hinton called the chief medical examiner of nearby Harris County, Dr. Joseph A. Jackamchick. Hinton said, quote, "I told him the situation and he asked what the young man's breath smelled like. He then called the morgue only to reveal there was a scent of almonds coming from Timothy O'Brien's mouth. Quote, "It's cyanide," said Dr. Jackamchick. The autopsy of the children had proved the medical examiner's theory. A pathologist said Timothy had enough cyanide in his system to kill 2 grown men. Tests later found that the top 2 inches of the pixie stick had been packed with the cyanide poison, and the other pixie sticks were said to have had enough cyanide to kill 3 to 4 grown men. Police officers managed to retrieve the remaining sweets from the other future victims before the children had a chance to consume the deadly substance. The police also noted the perpetrator had used staples to seal the pixie sticks after tampering with them. Quote, "That's what saved another boy's life that night," attorney Hinton recalled. "The church boy who got the last pixie stick decided he wanted to eat the pixie stick also, but he was found later that night sleeping with the candy still in his hand. He was unable to get the staple off." The police took Ronald back to the neighborhood where he, his neighbor, and the 3 children had been trick-or-treating. The police wanted Ronald to show them the house where he had been given the pixie sticks, but Ronald could not remember where the house was or even which house it had been that he had been given the pixie sticks. He had been confused, maybe forgot, simply just could not remember anything about the location other than all the lights had been off and no one seemed to be home. Ronald also told the police about how he never actually saw the man, only ever seeing his hairy hand and arm reaching out of the house to hand him the candy. This is when the investigators started to become suspicious. The 2 families had only walked 2 streets because of the rain. How could he not remember? The police had taken Ronald out twice already with no luck, and Hinton stated, quote, "A few days went by and it was incredibly frustrating, so they took O'Brien out again and were pretty firm with him. The tactic had worked this time. Ronald's memory seemed to have repaired itself. He remembered which house it had been and where it was located. Ronald had taken the police to the street and he pointed towards a house. The man's name was Courtney Melvin, who occupied the home. He had not answered the door. Police then went to the man's place of work at the Houston Williams Hobby P Airport, and police placed him under arrest in front of colleagues and customers. The horrible Halloween nightmare was over. The Candyman was caught. No more psycho Halloween killer running loose. However, something wasn't quite adding up. Courtney Melvin had an alibi. A strong one too. His wife and daughter had been home, and they were the ones who had turned off all the lights right after they ran all out of candy. Now, the wife and daughter didn't have hairy arms, so what was going on? Courtney Melvin also had been at work until 11 p.m. the night of Halloween. The police also rolled Melvin out as a suspect when over 200 people had confirmed him working Halloween night. The timesheets were there to clearly prove he was at work. It was confirmed Melvin was not their suspect. But this raised police suspicions toward Ronald even more. Quote, "This only magnified my suspicions," said Hinton. "I'd also heard O'Brien was angry at his relatives for not staying up the night of Timothy's funeral, which was odd. Now, Ronald had written a song about Jesus and Timothy and joining the Lord in heaven, and had grown agitated when his grieving family wouldn't stay up late to watch a recording of the performance being broadcast on television." Hinton confirmed something strange was going on. Now, who exactly is Ronald, because police are clearly suspicious? Well, Ronald Clark O'Brien was born October 19th, 1944, and he was an optician at Texas State Optical in Sharpstown, Houston. And an optician is the person who fits you with your glasses or contact lenses, basically an eye care professional. Ronald was a deacon at the Second Baptist Church, and he sang in the choir and ran a local bus program. He was said to be a great father and just a good person overall. But Ronald was also someone who could never hold down on a job. In the past decade before Timothy's death, Ronald had 21 different places of work. This was always his fault. Either he never was on time or stopped showing up completely, or he was committing fraudulent activities to steal money and he was fired. At the time of Timothy's death, Ronald was suspected of stealing money from Texas State Optical and was about to be fired for it. As the investigation progressed, police learned that Ronald O'Brien was over $100,000 in debt. This is equivalent to about $676,611 in 2024. Ronald's car was about to be repossessed. He was defaulting on several big bank loans, and the O'Brien household was already foreclosed on. Police then discovered that Ronald had taken out life insurance policies on his children in the months preceding Timothy's death. Of course. In January 1974, he had taken out $10,000 life insurance policies on both of his children, equivalent to about $67,661 in 2024. 1 month before Timothy's death, Ronald tried to up the claims to $20,000 for both children, equivalent to about $135,322 in 2024. Ronald's insurance company had objected to him doing this, so in the days preceding Timothy's death, Ronald had taken out yet another $20,000 policy on each child. The various policies totaled $60,000, equivalent to about $405,967 in 2024. Ronald's wife, Daneen, swore she never knew about the policies, but yes, Ronald did have a wife, but there is no information on her almost anywhere, so this is all there really is about her. But she also gave a crucial statement to the police that Timothy didn't actually pick the pixie stick to eat that night, and Ronald almost forced him to eat it, which is so sad, honestly. Like, let him pick the Reese cup or something, damn it. Also, leave a comment below what your favorite Halloween candy is. I'll be responding to all of you. Mine is personally Reese cup, the OG, you know? Now, get this shit. Ronald had called at 9 a.m. on November 1st. By the way, that's my birthday if you want to give me a gift. Okay, great. Anyway, so Ronald called the insurance company at 9 a.m., around 12 hours after his son's death, to see when he could claim the life insurance money. What the fuck? After they found this, police came to attorney Mike Hinton's class while he was teaching at the Pasadena Police Academy to talk about the new details in the case. The police presented the children's life insurance policies to the attorney. They presented Ronald's debt, then stated how Ronald had asked about the insurance payout the morning after Timothy's death. Mike Hinton had enough evidence to gather a search warrant of the O'Brien home. Granted a warrant, a search of the O'Brien house offered up a pair of scissors with plastic and powdery residue attached, which was similar to that found on the cyanide-laced pixie stick. But in my personal opinion, this wasn't the strongest evidence. That could have been from him cutting open the pixie stick after someone else poisoned them, for example, if that's actually what happened. But we know what happened, and O'Brien was then arrested and taken in for questioning. As the investigation continued, the evidence started to stack up against Ronald. Prosecuting attorney Hinton said, quote, "It turned out O'Brien was going to community college and in class would ask his professor questions like, what is more lethal, cyanide or another type of poison? Why would somebody ask that?" Another witness who worked for a chemical company in Houston told police a man had come in to buy some cyanide, but left after being told the smallest amount he could buy was 5 pounds. Now hold up, 5 pounds of cyanide. Now I had to look this up, and I'm for sure on some kind of FBI radar now, so you're welcome. And here's what I found on chemc.com. Quote, "For example, the probability that a person who weighs 160 pounds, 72.64 kilograms, who ingests 0.3632 grams potassium cyanide will die within 3 days is 50%, and if he ingests 0.55 grams, the probability is over 90%. To put these numbers in perspective, a teaspoon contains 7.2 grams and a tablespoon contains 23.7 grams. Thus, 90% of 13 people, about 12, who weigh 160 pounds can be killed using a single teaspoon of potassium cyanide. A single tablespoon of potassium cyanide will kill 90% of 43 people, about 39. In reality, death due to cyanide poisoning will occur in much shorter time than 3 days, more likely in 2 to 6 hours. So, let's have some fun. So, in my last episode about Kenneth Smith and John Parker, I did the segment Saving for Murder. But I've been thinking on it and I really don't like the sound of it. So, what I'm going to change it to is simply murder math. Let's do some murder math. So, 5 pounds of cyanide. Based on the article I read already, the person who weighs 160 pounds who ingests 0.55 grams of cyanide will have a 90% chance of death. 1 pound, 1, is equal to about 453.6 grams. So 5 pounds would be equal to about 2,268 grams. Now, if it only takes 0.55 grams of cyanide to kill someone who weighs 160 pounds with a 90% probability, that means we would have to take 2,268, divide that by 0.55, and multiply that by 0.9 to get the 90%. So, 5 pounds of potassium cyanide can kill about... Did you sick fucks really think I was going to tell you how many people 5 pounds of cyanide kills? What is wrong with you? But hey, I hid the number somewhere in the video, so the first person to find the correct number and send it to me on social media will get a free Halloween hoodie. Good luck. And that concludes this segment of Murder Math. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. All right, let's get back on track here. Let me know what you think about Murder Math. I absolutely love that. That was fun. So the guy from the chemical company said that someone came in asking for cyanide and left after being told they can only buy a minimum of 5 pounds. All right, we're caught up. Quote, the man from the store said he couldn't identify O'Brien, but he remembered that his customer was wearing a beige or blue smock, like a doctor, said Hinton. O'Brien was an optician. That was exactly the uniform he wore to work. Ronald would be arrested on November 5th, 1974, just days after his son's deadly poisoning. Ronald had poisoned his own son with cyanide-laced tampered pixie sticks, all to collect on an insurance policy to get out of debt. Still, this was years before DNA testing, and police couldn't put the pixie sticks in Ronald's hands or prove he'd bought any cyanide, so the 30-year-old optician maintained his innocence. Hinton remembers the case vividly. In the decades that have passed, his memory has remained sharp. Quote, O'Brien adored the attention, he says. I think he even loved it during his trial. Ronald entered a not guilty plea, with his defense blaming the tainted candy on some untraceable boogeyman, a sick individual using the cover of Halloween to poison unsuspecting children. But friends, family, and co-workers all testified against the man the press was calling the Candyman. And on the 3rd of June, 1975, it took just 46 minutes for a jury to return a guilty verdict for 1 charge of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. An hour later, it was decided that Ronald would be executed by electric chair. Ronald's appeal avenues were explored and turned down for nearly a decade after his guilty verdict. So it wasn't until March 31st, 1984, 10 years later, when all routes to survival had been exhausted, that he was finally about to be put to death for his crimes. By this point, the U.S. Supreme Court had ruled the electric chair a cruel and unusual punishment, so his life would be taken instead by the deadly drug cocktail of lethal injection. That day, Ronald Clark O'Brien ate his last meal, consisting of a T-bone steak, medium to well done, French fries with ketchup, whole kernel corn, sweet peas, a lettuce and tomato salad with egg and French dressing, iced tea, sweetener, saltine crackers, Boston cream pie, and rolls. Holy hell. Outside the Texas State Penitentiary in Huntsville, a crowd of around 300 people gathered to hear if the Candyman had met his end, shouting, "Trick or treat," and throwing candy at anti-death penalty protesters. That's not funny, but it's kind of funny at the same time. At 12:48 a.m., when Ronald was pronounced dead, Mike Hinton was in his childhood home in Amarillo, an 8-hour drive from Huntsville. That evening, he'd gone to his favorite lake, fishing rod in hand, and drank a beer in celebration as he drifted out into the darkness. Before and since the Deer Park poisoning, rumors of dodgy sweets being handed out have always surfaced around Halloween. But whether the fear is that the candies contain broken glass and razor blades, or that they're actually actually ecstasy pills, there's not much evidence to suggest parents actually have anything to worry about. In 2000, a man in Minneapolis was charged with putting needles in Snickers bars he'd handed out to trick-or-treaters. But the only victim was a teenager who got a slight prick from the sharp hidden object. Since Timothy O'Brien, there hasn't been a single case where a child has actually died after consuming contaminated Halloween treats. The case of Ronald Clark O'Brien is believed to be the case that started the entire Halloween candy craze. The tradition of trunk or treat was actually a method to quell these fears in parents and have a safe group of people to get candy from, which doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest. Someone could poison their candy there too. But if you want to hear more of the spooky Halloween candy deaths and accidents and the whole story about the 1858 Bradford Sweets poisonings, you can do that over on my brand new Patreon. Yes, over there you can have access to this first ever exclusive Last Supper bonus episode for only $5 a month. You also get a shout out on the regular show here, and every so often I will be putting out a bonus episode to give you guys a little extra or talk about some other crimes and spooky things that we can't really do on the regular show. A couple more things here real quick while I'm finishing up this last meal and we get to sit down and eat it. First, please go down to the second link in the description and sign up for my Last Supper email list. This way you can be the first to know about new episodes, merch drops, and crazy crime stories and death penalty news absolutely free. It'll really help out the show. Also, if you like the show and you want to donate, there is also a link down in the description. All donations extremely help this show continue to grow, and thank you all so much for your patience. Also, the podcast is now available over on Rumble. Rumble is a completely uncensored platform that is fighting against censorship, and it's a great platform to support. So if YouTube ever decides to take down one of my episodes for whatever bullshit reason, you know where to find it. Thank you guys all so much for your support lately. That concludes the case of Ronald Clark O'Brien, the Candyman. And with that, his sentence was served. All right, and that concludes the case of Ronald Clark O'Brien. What a fucked up case, honestly. What really got me in this case was whenever he quoted, "Yeah, I opened it, undid the clumps, and poured it down my son's throat." That was the most fucked up thing, one of most fucked up things I've heard in a very long time. I can't imagine losing my kids to anything, let alone pouring fucking poison down their throat. It was such a sick case, and honestly, poisoners are more psychopathic because they're less likely to be violent. So they are more diabolical, they're more coordinated, they're more planned out. And that just makes this thing so much more fucked up. But happy Halloween. Hope you have fun trick-or-treating. But like I said in the thing, there's zero cases that anybody's handed out candy and anybody's died. So it's very, 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 very unlikely that you have anything to worry about this Halloween. I hope you have fun trick-or-treating this year. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I had real fun with it. Now, this is a meal right here. This is my grandma's Boston cream pie, one of the best Boston cream pies I've ever had. And if you want to cook this meal for yourself, which I hope you do because it looks amazing, you can visit lastsupperpodcast.com/blog. Now, let's eat. I am starving. First things first, let's cut open this steak right here. This thing looks amazing. Holy hell. Look at that. Nice medium rare. That's not what he ordered, but fuck him, right? Fucking monster. Oh my God. Look at that. You can't probably see it on there, but that is beautiful right there. Juicy, buttery, seasoned well, nice and thick. That's beautiful right there. That's good steak. Try these fries, they look great. Fries and ketchup, perfect combo. Sweet corn and sweet peas, good combo. The brown butter corn, super delicious, you gotta try it. These are peas, said before, I love peas, I don't know why, they're so good. All right, let's try this roll. These things are fat and fluffy and delicious. That's good. Good, nice melted. Feels a little warmer. Put some nice butter on there, get it all melty in there. some of these little sweetener packets. I don't really like these, but for the sake of the show and honoring his last meal, just put some in there. Some nice iced tea. I think just plain, lightly sweetened tea is the best, you know. Got these nice spooky Halloween cups. And saltines for whatever reason. I'm not sure what this is supposed to go with, but. Now, the salad. I've never had French dressing, so we're gonna see how this is. Live reaction to some French dressing. Let's go for it. Not bad. Ranch is still the OG salad dressing, of course. And before we dive into eating the rest of the last meal, me by myself, just plowing through this thing, so I'm starving. I'm gonna try this amazing Boston cream pie. Look at that, delicious. That custard is so good. You might be wondering, why is there not chocolate drizzled over the Boston cream pie? Well, my grandma has always made it with the powdered sugar, which I've just grown up with, and I like it that way. So you can put chocolate or sugar on top, doesn't matter. But that's it, guys. This was such an amazing meal. A lot of different things. It's good, it all wraps together. This would be a good last meal for me, honestly. I would eat this for my last meal. All right, I'm gonna eat the rest of this meal. All right, and that concludes this episode of The Last Supper, a true crime podcast. Thank you for joining us. Wherever you're watching or listening, please make sure you follow it and subscribe to the show. Also, give a 5-star review. That really helps. Let's get the show up the chart. And also, spread the words. Tell your friends, tell your family. And until then, make sure you enjoy every meal, because you never know when it'll be your last.